Hello and welcome to the Economics and Sustainability Certification Program by Peak, brought to you by Ensystems Advisory Private Limited. Today we will discuss how to support public buses in a post-COVID world. In this presentation, we will cover the benefits of public transport, various policy interventions that can be made to support public bus services, the impact of COVID-19 on public buses, and the problem statement that you will have to solve. Our focus in this presentation is on urban mobility, that is transporting individuals within cities in India. Indian cities have a number of mobility options, including non-motorized means such as walking and cycling, private vehicles, private taxis and rickshaws, app-based taxis and buses, shared mobility, and public transport through buses and metros. To get an idea of public transport in Indian cities, let's take a look at the city of Mumbai. The suburban rail in Mumbai ferries approximately 7.5 million passengers per day, and the Mumbai Metro has a ridership of 380,000. BEST, the public bus service provider, carried 5 million passengers per day. We don't have accurate figures for the numbers traveling daily using private vehicles, but we know that the city has 3.1 million private cars, two-wheelers, taxis, and rickshaws. In addition, the share of app-based taxis, rickshaws, buses, and app-based ride shares have been on the rise. Surveys have shown that close to half the population of Mumbai walks to work. In this presentation, we will focus on public buses. Buses are the most popular and convenient mode of transportation in Indian cities. India has more than 1.6 million registered buses. The public bus sector operates 170,000 buses carrying roughly 70 million people every day. However, bus transportation has not been able to cater to the growing demand in cities. What are the benefits of public buses to commuters and the residents of the cities? Well, let's start with reduced air pollution. Outdoor air pollution is a major health risk in India. Public transport moves people efficiently while producing significantly less air pollution. For instance, buses emit only 20% as much carbon monoxide per passenger kilometer as a single occupant car. Now let's talk about the impact of public buses on climate change. The leading cause of climate change is human activities that lead to the emission of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide. The transport sector consumes 17% of India's energy and accounts for approximately 10% of India's carbon dioxide emissions. Most of these are caused by vehicular emissions on the road. For urban bus services in India, studies have shown that CO2 emissions per kilometer per person of cars are approximately 9 times that of an urban bus system. We are all familiar with road congestion in Indian cities. With the increasing use of private cars, the average speed of a vehicle on Indian roads is just 17 to 19 kilometers per hour between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., with the slowest times witnessed during the evening rush hour. This is equivalent to the speed of a cycle. Restricting cars and giving priority to buses dramatically reduces congestion. Bus systems are among the most cost-effective means of transport for commuters in Indian cities. They are also much cheaper for the state than setting up a metro system. The spatial coverage of bus networks is generally denser than other modes of transport. Accessibility of public buses includes service provision to economically unviable routes. It also means access for commuters with special needs. It should be noted that accessibility of public transport in India to special needs individuals is limited and varies greatly within and across cities. We have seen why public buses are so important for our cities. However, the share of buses is reducing across cities. In 2015, the number of buses per million Indians stood at 131, which reduced to 118 in 2016. There are a number of reasons for decline in public buses, such as overcrowding and undependable services with frequent breakdowns. Buses in some cities are not maintained, leading to an uncomfortable or an unsafe journey. Cash-strapped cities are unable to invest in public transport to use technology such as tracking, online payment, on-demand service provision. A lot more options beyond bus services, rickshaws, and taxis are now available to people for their commute, and for a lot of Indians, owning their own vehicle has aspirational value. Let's look at some of the options that are available to cities and states to support, improve, and promote bus services. The first option is to make technical interventions. Cities have taken measures to reduce fuel consumption and carbon emissions from buses. For instance, in the area of Bandra Kurla complex in Mumbai, a fleet of hybrid electric buses was launched in 2018 to reduce emissions as well as provide improved comfort and safety. Another improved intervention is in urban land use planning. By integrating transport into land use planning, the city can ensure that residential and commercial locations are located within easy commuting distances with direct bus routes, reducing the need for driving. Cities currently create a comprehensive mobility plan, which is then included in the city's development master plan. Financial incentives can also be used to support public buses, such as partnering with private entities to fund the expansion of the city bus services. In Bangalore, the BMTC has developed its real estate holdings using a public-private partnership to build traffic transit management centers. Commuters are provided facilities and the BMTC earns revenues for commercial operators. One of the hurdles facing urban transport is that a large number of government agencies are involved, such as the police, municipality, urban development department, RTO, etc. A single city-based regulator that regulates the city's various modes of transportation can promote the use of public buses. Many cities around the world have transport regulators, and the government has proposed creating a unified metropolitan transport authority. Kerala passed the Kerala Metropolitan Transport Authority Act in 2018 with authorities for the cities of Kochi, Thiruvananthapuram and Kozhikode. While these options to promote public buses exist, we have currently come across a completely new challenge. With the COVID-19 pandemic, bus services across India were stopped and then slowly restarted with limited routes, limited passengers and fewer hours of operation. Additionally, a number of people have expressed a preference for transportation using private vehicles in order to minimize the risk of infection. In Bangalore, bus services have been resumed in a staggered manner. Services were first started for health service employees, then essential services, and then for industries. And from 19th May, they started for the public as well. Now, around 4,700 buses operate in Bangalore. While the pre-COVID ridership was around 35 lakhs, the ridership of public buses in Bangalore right now is only around 8 lakhs. The IT sector and students were a large share of commuters, most of whom have stopped traveling now. BMTC's current focus is on ensuring reliability of the service. Given the low level of confidence in public transport, some bus service providers are using social and mass media campaigns to show people that protocols they are following to ensure hygiene, such as using PPEs, temperature checks, and masks. They have started using passes and digital ticketing with QR codes. They realize that social distancing is going to be a challenge and ensuring that people don't take unoccupied middle seats. They are studying procedures followed by the airlines industry and also figuring out how this can be applied to buses. Some of the challenges that bus services face now include reduced revenue from lower ridership, the preference for personal vehicles, and a potential change in commuting patterns, with a significant share of population working from home. The cost of these bus services may also increase due to healthcare costs, frequent sanitation. The cost of these bus services may also increase due to healthcare costs, frequent sanitization, setting up cashless transaction systems, and monitoring and enforcing these new protocols. In order to survive, bus service providers will need to make changes in their operations. This is where you come in. Imagine you are a member of an NGO working in the area of public transportation. You need to create an outline of a plan on how the state can support the city's bus services. Some of the elements that you plan can be included in the list here. Go through your reading material provided on the peak page and work on your proposed plan. Submit a PowerPoint file with any charts or tables that can support your case with all the references used. We will send you a link on where you can upload your file. Thank you.
Hello students and welcome to today's fireside chat on public transport. We have with us today Ms. Sanskriti Menon. She's a senior program director at the Center for Environment Education. She leads CEE's urban program and the coast and marine programs. Her areas of work include participatory governance and public engagement for sustainability with regards to urban planning, mobility, waste management, and urban ecosystems. She's also been the convener of the Board of Studies for Environment Education for Maharashtra State Board for over a decade. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sanskriti. And can you give us an overview of your work at CEE?
Thanks, Ira, and thank you for also the introduction. Yes, I've been with CE for several years now. I'm based in Pune, and I've been involved in environmental education with schools, colleges, as well as with the urban communities. And as you mentioned, we are looking at mobility, we are looking at urban governance, really how do people participate in the decisions that affect their lives, as well as urban environmental quality, air quality, ecosystems, biodiversity, etc. And then also with waste management and improving services to people, the public services to people.
Thanks for that, Sanskriti. And can you tell us now about our main topic, which is public transportation, especially buses? Can you tell us about major developments, particularly in the last decade, in public transport in India?
Uh, yeah, I think the urban bus system has it's almost 100 years ago, about 95 years ago, that the first bus services started in Bombay, and over the last let's say 9 decades, then bus systems are being run in many cities in the country, but not all. And there's a lot yet to do. There's a lot of work to be done in improving the quality and the extent and customer satisfaction, how much bus systems are able to really benefit the public. But in the last 15 years, there have been quite a few developments with regard to public bus. And this is especially due to the National Urban Transport Policy, which was promulgated by the Ministry of Urban Development then in 2006. And this also meant, through central government financing and reforms that were initiated by the Ministry of Urban Development with, state governments and city governments, looking at improving, the public bus systems, especially by financing the purchase of buses, also developing a bus specification which must be used for public transit, because the quality of the bus also is an important factor, that how easy is it to use the bus. And the financing of bus systems or bus purchases was very important, because unless bus system is of an adequate size, if it has a good fleet, only then can it meet the needs of the public. So the big changes are really that we have really now an urban transport policy which emphasizes sustainable modes of transportation, which is of course not only public bus systems, but also walking, cycling, and shared modes of transport. And so having a policy in place was the big change that we have seen. And there's now also a lot of discussion around how to improve, while the policy is in place, how do you actually improve on ground systems? So the last 15 years have been quite important in at least bringing in, the policy change, and then starting to develop good bus systems on the ground. But there's a lot of work yet to be done.
So, coming to specific cities and states now, can you give us examples of cities and states that are doing a good job in providing public buses to their populations?
Understand what does it mean to provide a good bus service. So, in let's say, in if you were thinking yourself as a commuter, the main aim for the bus authority should be to provide a good bus service to the commuters, which is accessible, firstly. That is, you should not have to go too far to catch a bus. It doesn't make a lot of sense if you have to go 2 kilometers to catch a bus. Either the bus stop should be quite close to you, or you should have a easy way of reaching a bus stop. Maybe through a shuttle service, which is like a e-rickshaw or something like that, or you can walk to the bus station, or you can cycle to the bus station, but it should not be too far, which means it should be accessible. Second thing, it should be affordable. It shouldn't be so expensive to take the bus. Also, that it should be safe and comfortable. And finally, it should go where you want to go. So it should be a convenient network. The network needs to be good enough so that it provides you the service of going from point A to point B, which is along your route. So to be able to provide a service which is really accessible and affordable, convenient, comfortable, and safe, there are a number of things that a bus system should do, as an ingredient or a recipe. One big thing is that the adequacy of the bus fleet itself. That's a number of buses in the bus system. So I would say that the BMTC for Bangalore, that has a fleet of over 6,000 buses, and typically we take a rule of thumb. That is, if the city has let's say about 50 buses per lakh population, then that would be a more or less adequate bus fleet size. The other thing is that one should look at is route planning and rationalization. As we said, the bus needs to go where you want to go, and or that you should be able to take something and use a trunk route to go the major distance, and then the first and last mile. There are some ways of getting to the bus and getting off the bus and going to your final destination. So some cities have been doing, modeling about where the commuters want to go, and how do you organize the whole mobility so that the longer trips that are there, most commuters, most travelers will go along certain arterial routes, or we call them trunk routes. So there have been bus systems that, they've actually done studies of the mobility patterns, and then modeled how the route planning should be done. And so Ahmedabad and Bangalore have done these studies, and then Bangalore has also not only done the studies but also implemented it in planning the routes and rationalizing their routes. And Delhi, I believe, has also done a number of customer surveys, and they do regular surveys to get feedback and suggestions from the commuters themselves about where the routes ought to be. How much does the bus system or the bus organization really engage with the public? That's another factor which can, you could say, assess the quality of the bus system. And so some bus services have a good, say, website, and they provide information, but they also provide, opportunities for user feedback, which could be through a system on the website itself, or a complaints management system through SMS or through voice, IVRS systems. And Mysore has been implementing a lot of the technology options, and even Pune has a grievance redress system through different modes. I was speaking about technology, use of technology. So the use of technology in locating vehicles, where is the bus in the city, and using GPS technology and automatic vehicle location to control the movement of buses. And then also the same information can be used to provide information to the passengers that, your bus is coming, X route is coming in, say, 5 minutes, or the bus to this destination is coming in 3 minutes, and it will dock at this door. So these kind of passenger information systems, these have been implemented in Mysore, also in the bus rapid transit system in Janmarg, in Ahmedabad, also in Bangalore, and lately in Hubli Dharwad, which has also developed this new system called the bus rapid transit system. Something that is used for the scheduling of buses and allocation of duties to the drivers, which is the duty roster and the bus scheduling. and something called the online ticket accounting system. So that has been done apparently quite well in Vishakhapatnam. Um, Another factor is something called the efficiency of how well you use the fleet. So how many kilometers does each bus run per day? And Indore and Vishakhapatnam have done quite well. There's quite a variation, and of course, there are local factors that come into play. Suppose if it's a hilly sort of a region, maybe you won't get a lot of efficiency in a terrain which is not that easy to run buses on. Uh, the financial performance of buses is another thing to look at, and so again, this may depend on various different policy decisions. It is linked to the cost of fuel, and also uh, the decisions that a city government or a state government might make on what is the cost of the ticket. And if the decision is, which it should be also, that the cost of the ticket should be quite affordable, so you may need then a greater grant from the government to run the bus system. So financial performance, this is quite varied, and it's a little difficult to make a judgment on which cities are doing better or worse on that, because there are many organizational factors which also come into play. Some other factors which are important to look at is, the infrastructure that is available for the bus system to function. For example, does the city provide adequate land for depots and workshops? And this means that, the master plan must integrate the bus system within the master plan is how the city's how the land of the city is used, and that is something that city governments and the town planning department does in the city. And if they don't make adequate land available for depots to be located, in an optimal way, and buses have to travel a lot to finally reach their destination after say 11:30. They in the night after bus services finish for the day, the buses have to go and park somewhere. And if those are too far, then they have to do a lot of empty kilometers, which increases the cost of running the bus. And they need workshops so that the buses can be maintained and washed. And again, if these are not enough or they are too far, then it impacts the quality of the service that you have. New things that have been happening in the recent past is, electric buses have been financed, and so these have been in Pune, for example, more than 100, about 125 buses are now running, and it's a very comfortable ride, and it's noiseless and no emissions. But again, there's a lot to do in running electric buses and working out the systems of charging stations where the buses will park at night. They need to be charged. How long does it take for what is the range of the electric bus? These are new things that are coming in just the last 2 to 3 years, that electric buses have been financed in different cities, and that's something really to look at carefully and see how that evolves. Another good thing is, again, it's not that new, but something which started around the mid 2000s, 2005 in Pune, and now maybe there are 10 to 12 bus rapid transit systems that have been tried in different cities. So the bus rapid transit is essentially looking at the efficiency of how the bus is able to move quite efficiently in the city traffic. And if you think about it, for example, if you are in your bike or car, you would go to the not drive on the left, because the left has a lot of maybe pedestrians and property entrances and hawkers and vendors. So if you wanted to go a little faster, you would go to the rightmost lane in your right of way, and there you get smoother movement. So same way, if you want the bus to move quite smoothly between bus stops, so it's best to allocate a dedicated lane to the bus. And so the bus rapid transit has a few of these characteristics that enable a smoother movement of the bus, which is then becoming more efficient, as well as a number of amenities for the passengers themselves to provide a good, very smooth and safe and comfortable experience of traveling in the bus, as well as something which aids the management of the movement of the buses. And this is done, as I said, through the provision of the bus lane, a dedicated bus lane, and no other vehicles are allowed in that. Plus, also, like I said, if this bus lane is towards the center of the road, then you need the bus station also to be in the center of the road. So that those are called median bus stations. These buses of the BRT are then fitted also with GPS, and so vehicle tracking is possible. And then the GPS, the signal goes to a central sort of control room, where on a screen, the operators can see where all the buses are. And in case some buses are bunching up, that, 2 or 3 buses queue up at a bus stop, which means that, you just saw your bus go and then the same number comes again. Instead of that, they need to be evenly spaced out. So, also then e-ticketing is to be actually implemented as part of bus rapid transit, which enables then a very fast, you don't waste a lot of time boarding, and inside the bus there is not a lot of transaction and looking for change and all that. And again, passenger information system through screens, display screens in the bus station. Passengers are able to see when their bus is coming, and then actually go to the required bus, the door of the bus stop where the bus is likely to dock. And then through good branding and communication, actually show that these are the buses that belong to the bus rapid transit fleet. So, for example, in Pune, the BRT system is called the Rainbow BRT. In Hubli, Dharwad, it's called Chigri, which is the word for stag. And so this means that the buses have a very unique and distinctive identity, and commuters can easily identify their bus. So this kind of a system, the bus rapid transit system, is being tried out in India in a few different cities. This originated in mention that the state, there is something called which was recommended in the National Urban Transport Policy itself, that what is the organization system which will enable such bus systems to be developed. So the suggestion is that states set up actually something called the Unified Metropolitan Transport Authority, the UMTA, which then coordinates how transportation and mobility systems are organized in a city region, in an urban region. And so the Department of Urban Land Transport in Bangalore is such an entity which performs the function of an UMTA, as they say, and is able to coordinate the different elements of mobility.
Now, coming to the COVID-19 pandemic, can you give us some examples of things that cities have done or that they can do to build up public confidence in using buses?
So a lot of discussion has been happening in transportation groups and the government as well. And there is a very good and interesting advisory that has now recently, just in early June, been issued by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. And that has been sent to all the state governments and union territories and cities and metro rail corporations to improve urban transport services. So the first plank of that is really to encourage walk and cycle, and the suggestion has been that for example, in cities across the world, in New York or Bogota or Milan, they've created several kilometers of pop-up cycle lanes, and just increased 40, 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, not 100 kilometers, but 40, 50, 30 kilometers of new bicycle lanes have just been formulated in the recent weeks. It's now interesting also to know that, for example, in Kolkata, there was earlier a ban on cycles on certain, large roads, arterial roads of the city. And now people are automatically taking to cycling because it is the most safe mode. And it can get you 7 kilometers. Walk may not be possible for several kilometers, but the cycle is a very natural, safe distancing mode. And people have been buying cycles as well as repairing their cycles and going on the bicycle. And the city, Calcutta, has now taken the decision that that reversal of the ban of cycles, and also facilitating the movement of cycles. And that is something that I think all city governments should do, that recognize that cycle is really a very important mode for mobility and safety, and what can the city do to make it safer to cycle. And the interesting thing is that when we were doing the cycle plan, it was number of advisors are actually innovations have emerged also from different cities. One is that the staff of the bus systems, they are really frontline workers themselves, because they are in the bus and they are serving hundreds of customers in a day. So that the driver and the conductor, they need to be protected, and they should be given the personal protective gear. And you could also isolate them from interaction, enable the physical distance by, say, a clear glass or plastic sheet between the driver and the commuters, or the conductor and the passengers. You should, make sure that the bus is sanitized and cleaned several times during the day. And especially when you get into the bus, you have that grab handle or the grab rail, and that is the place where a lot of contact takes place, because everybody is touching it. So that's the point which must be sanitized. And the door handle when you're getting off and disembarking, getting on and getting off, and the grab rail, which are all the touch points. So those need to be paid special attention for sanitizing. And instead of air conditioning, maybe leave the windows open, have good circulation of the air. E-ticketing, so that there's no exchange of money, which is also a transmission route. And then reduce services in locations which have high COVID incidents, but increase the number of buses, so that you can reduce crowdedness. And another interesting suggestion in the longer term or medium term is that if there are cities with many fragmented bus operators, so for example in Alwar there is the Alwar Vahini, which is a smaller bus. It's a Tata Magic, but a number of routes are running. So how could you consolidate them to improve, and you get economies of scale, you can rationalize the routes, and actually so run it as a better, more professional service. And then also we spoke about the first and last mile connectivity, and many cities now have public bicycle share systems, and it's possible to provide PBS stations at the bus stops, so you can take a bicycle to the bus stop, get onto the bus, and where you get off, if there's another bicycle stop there, system there, you can take it to your final destination. So this integration of cycle with transit, with public transit, that provides for a good seamless experience for the commuter. And this can be entirely e-ticketed. You could buy a monthly pass for both the bus and the bicycle. But these are perhaps not already in place, but these are the innovations that really need to be worked upon to enable. I think the bicycle vendors are probably already in discussion for that, but if it can be made simpler, faster through apps, etc., that's an area to work on. Interestingly, the ministry's advisory also has a point about communication to build trust. So if a public system is really doing the sanitization, and they have enabled that we will allow 20 people per bus, and we have increased the bus fleet, and it's been augmented on this route. So this information to build trust, this must reach the customers, to the commuters, so that they feel encouraged to take it. And also improve the communication. So if you find issues, then you have a helpline or a hotline where you can report issues, because these are things that were required in any case for a good bus system, but they become even more important, so that what services are available, how safe they are, and you can get onto it. If you find an issue, you should be able to report it. And again, so these are some things that can already be put in place or need to be done in the medium and long term. The budget and the human resource allocation and the training, these are things that the city governments and the bus entities really need to work on. And hopefully that, the economic stimulus that is needed to invest in bus systems, that is something that, NGOs, city groups, commuter groups should join the advocacy for that.
Thanks so much, Sanskriti, for your comprehensive overview of the state of public transport in India, and cities and states that are performing well, things that can be done to support public transportation post-COVID, So thank you so much, Sanskriti. And students, I hope that you all get a lot out of this video. You can read more resources and links on the PEAK website. Thank you.